Hello and welcome back to Better Than Adventure. Last time, we were working on that thing over there, and today we'll be continuing. As you can see, I've been sort of working on the, shrubbery, because as this is a sort of festive area, I think we need to have more spruce, pine, whatever trees. Last time, I also mentioned a few very spicy-ish things about... Well, mostly my particular issues with, unethical practices in, YouTuber game reviewers, and some other stuff. But generally, yeah, that's... If you weren't there, yeah. But let me just, yeah, I know it's like if somebody's binging these, they're like, wow, he's gonna reiterate the yeah, I'm sorry. But for those who weren't there last time, I specifically had a complaint, which was, basically, and this covers, like, when people are being disingenuous online about video games. Basically, the thing is, when somebody's considered funny or entertaining, a lot of the times people can look over, like, them making shit up, right? I remember there was this really good... I forgot the guy's name now, but it's the guy who apparently hates every single game he reviews. He worked with The Escapist, but his name escapes me. How ironic. Whatever. But he made a really good video. Like, a really good video, where he talked about the problems with the sort of review stuff. And one of the things that, he mentioned was that something which is offensive to him is the idea that, oh, well, he's just joking, which is something which some people say when they, you know, disagree with his takes on a game. They're like, oh, well, he doesn't genuinely have that opinion because he's being maybe a little bit hyperbolic about it. He's just joking. And the guy basically said, no, you know, he puts time and effort into this stuff specifically because he cares about it. And that the reason why he is, you know, critical of stuff is because he has high standards. If somebody, and this is an especially important point, if you play the same, you know, if you just play a few new games per year, right? You're gonna have different standards for good than somebody whose job it is to review games. And because of that, you'll have different standards. Which is just something for people to keep in mind who, may, like, be confused as to why specific things are given, you know, specific review scores or whatever, when they had perfect fun playing it, and just keep that in mind, right? But basically, yeah, one of the big issues which I've seen, generally speaking, with the YouTube stuff, is that a lot of people will, oftentimes, kind of take things... Either they will take, like, things to heart, which are, you know, if you're big enough, people will defend whatever you say, but if you're small enough and say something that goes against the grain of, like, the audience that will, like, that clicks on your video, people will be mad. For instance, one of the things which I've noticed is if you compare a not very good big game with a better small game, but both of them, like, let's take two older games, right? So, like, if you take one of those games, which is more popular, but kinda shit, and another one, which is weirdly similar in some kind of abstract ways, but it's better, but a lot less people know about it, people will become madder. I'm, of course, talking about Jumping Flash 2 and Turok. Now, for those who don't know what Jumping Flash 2 and Turok are, Jumping Flash 2 is a, it was the sequel to a 3D platformer that came out before Mario 64, and the sequel also came out before Mario 64. It's a, yeah, first-person 3D platformer, and it is really fun to play. It has tank controls in when you walk, and normal controls when you're jumping, and it controls amazingly well. It's really fun. Turok came out a year after Jumping Flash 2, controls like utter garbage, has the view distance of 1, like 1 meter. Just 1. And generally, it's really not a good game. But it was like the 10th, I think, North American N64 game. So it stood out because of that. And it was like the only first-person shooter. So at the time, if you couldn't wait for Doom 64 and you wanted a first-person shooter, it was either Turok or staring at a rock. So Turok it was. But yeah, I made a video like that was sort of, well, the entire point of the video was, it started as kind of an in-joke where both in Turok and Jumping Flash, the main challenge I found was platforming, because Turok's controls suck so much that it's real easy to just fall off of platforms and die. What can I do with flint? Make more gravel. I guess. But yeah. And at the end of the day, the issue I found with like Turok and Jumping Flash was that I believed that both of the games are kind of obscure. I guess Turok did sell a lot at the time, like all 3 games sold a bit above 1 million. And Jumping Flash never saw that kind of success, but Jumping Flash was, like, way more fun to play. But yeah. And what's interesting is because Jumping Flash is a lesser-known title, a lot of the reviews were... And this also happened on, like... Because on the N64, the FPS games that people know of are kind of popular, right? Like GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, I guess Turok, and some other stuff. But on the PlayStation, they're not that well known. So that specific video I made, which went over the FPS games, I don't think I made the best picks. However, I still think the video was justified. I will be honest and say that one of the things I don't do is I don't bullshit. I kind of like the idea of, you know, I would piss off someone by being correct, but just making shit up to piss someone off isn't what I would call, you know, something I do. It's not something I want to do. It's stupid. I wanna feel like, you know, because if you're just making stuff up to piss someone off, you're just kind of being a dick. If you know, saying something that's true about video games and someone's getting mad, well, it's kind of their fault. So yeah, look at it from that perspective, I guess. But yeah, point is, Turok was kind of a huge disappointment when I tried it. It's because when you hear people recommend a game, you kind of assume that it's gonna be fun. But there was no fun to be had for me. There was so much annoying shit. There was just no fun. There was no fun. That's the best way to describe my experience with Turok. There was no fun. And, you know, the issue of that is, a lot of people like Turok. I don't understand why they would like Turok, but they like Turok. And when you are the guy saying the Emperor has no clothes, because all the other people who know the Emperor has no clothes are, not making videos about it, because why would you pick that fight? When you, yeah, all the Emperor has clothes people will not like the statement. And honestly, a lot of the stuff I've dealt with in the sort of retro gaming stuff really did feel like the Emperor has no clothes thing. There was another example which was in my video where I basically said that, like, the 5th generation of gaming is really underrated. What happened was I got a lot of interesting comments from, like, the sort of people, like, you know, millennials who grew up with the system, which was kind of cool to see their own takes on it, but the issue was that their takes were a little bit misinformed. The main issue was that they were claiming that how could it possibly be, you know, underrated? First of all, some people got mad because they said the 2nd generation was full of shitty games. And, like, believe what you want to believe. I can't change your mind on this, right? But, Dragster for the 2600 is not comparable to, like, Gran Turismo. I'm sorry. One of these games is, like, one of the best 5th generation racing simulation games. It's not really a simulation, you know what I mean. And the other game is Dragster for the 2600. You know, one of them's clearly shit. But that's kind of when I realized, yeah, a lot of these people grew up with the, like, 5th generation, so to them, hearing that it's underrated by somebody who didn't grow up with 5th gen systems is, like, sacrilege. But the truth is, and this is the thing which people have to realize, when you're talking with somebody about, like, older games, right? Like, even when you're just talking about, like, fucking, you know, baby's first retro game, Mario 64, right? Mario World, whatever. You're already talking to a minority of people. Most people just see retro games as outdated garbage. Like, most people would never play Final Fantasy if it wasn't remastered. And don't get me wrong, that's awful. I think it's kind of stupid that we live in a society where people will just not play a game because it's, like, not new enough or not shiny enough, even if the game itself still has a ton of value. But that's how it is, and you can't force people to play games because we don't live in a totalitarian government where I tell people which video games to play. Maybe one day. And then everybody will play Panzer Dragoon Saga. But until that point, I just kind of have to live with that. And I'll probably be fine. Maybe I'll go a little bit crazy, but maybe not. Anyways, whilst I've been talking endlessly, I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna have to finish this right about now. So the way you finish these, if you don't know the old strat, you need a lot of pressure plates. And then what you do, oh yeah, we also need some stairs. This is like a bar or something, so you want like a, few seats that are like this? Yeah. We don't want them really to be edge to edge, so like this. Ta-da! Oh wait, these ones are a little bit... That's gonna be fine, who cares? But yeah. We also have a first customer already. But yeah, like, realistically, I understand the, I understand why a lot of people aren't into old games. Like, having to go from modern conveniences to, you know, older games is just kinda... a lot of people don't want to do that. And realistically, it's one of the things that I appreciate the most about Nintendo. Even if I disagree with a lot of the things people say about their games to the point where, like, some people get angry the moment I open my mouth because they think I'm going to say something like Mario 64 didn't invent 3D gaming. It already existed and it merely furthered the collectathon platformer. Which is also incorrect because it didn't further the collectathon platformer, it fucking created it. But yeah, it's kind of difficult to talk about this sort of stuff, because a lot of the time, most people don't really care that much. And I think that's, like, the biggest sort of wake-up thing that I have to tell people. Like, a lot of the time, if somebody holds an opinion, most people do not hold opinions that strongly, right? Like, most of the time, if somebody believes in something, it's just like a sort of meh thing, you know. It's not an actual strong belief, and you can just ask them, like, hey, why do you think this game sucks? And they'll be like, oh, well, because it's kind of shit, bro. And that's gonna be it. That's gonna be their argument. It's not something people think hard about. And partially because of that, then whenever, like, you ask someone, hey, you know, if somebody in the comments says, actually, I think, what is this Jumping Jacks game? You will, real commenting on. I don't know why he couldn't spell the name of the game properly, but okay. You know, if I try to explain to the person, they'll just look at me confused, because to them, they just left a YouTube comment. Who's this guy replying to my comment? How dare he? But it is what it is. You can't help people when they are so adamant about being wrong, you know? The only thing you can really do is just kind of shrug your shoulders and hope they'll eventually figure it out. But as we know, people don't figure it out. Because by far most of the time what happens is people will just, you know, cling on whatever they believe basically forever. Because realistically, you know, a lot of the times it's linked to stuff like their childhood. And why would you take someone's childhood away from them, you monster? Yeah, they may be wrong, and they may be unreasonably angry at you for making a YouTube video, but would you really take their Marios away from them? No, of course not. It's just one of those things, I guess. And yeah, if you're wondering, I will truly never live this stuff I'm doing down. Because realistically, I mean, what else... Like, what else am I really gonna say? A lot of the stuff I've done on this channel that's actually gotten a lot of clicks is the 5th gen stuff. And that's something which kinda naturally interested me, which is why I started doing it. The issue is, with 5th gen stuff, the truth is that Nintendo stuff has been... So, basically, here's the thing. I remember talking with somebody about this. 5th generation, like, Nintendo 64 stuff has been so strip-mined dry for any YouTube content, like, whatsoever, that realistically there's not much you could make a video about. Like, what are you gonna say? Pilot Wings 64 defined 3D gaming? Well, those are real videos which I've seen people try to make, you know? Someone made one of the videos talking about it. Pilot Wings 64 then picked up in the YouTube algorithm, and then everybody and their mother started making a Pilot Wings 64 video. And the issue with Pilot Wings 64... I remember watching, like, I'm just gonna shamelessly steal this from Jason Graves. It feels like half a game. It feels like, if you would imagine, it feels like missions in a game where you would also have a town. By it just being, like, arcadey missions, with no real other goal or objective, it kind of loses out on what could have potentially been a really interesting game. Like, holy hell, imagine Pilot Wings 64, but after you're done with the mission, you like go back home and then you're done with training, you go home, then you watch the news. Oh my god, just having that sort of. Oh, it happened again. Beautiful. I want to stop somewhere here. Because I need stone. But yeah, the general idea that I have is I think that video games are just, on average, the average video game needs to be a 5 out of 10, right? Because if the average video game isn't a 5 out of 10, then something's wrong with the system. It's why I've never liked a lot of review sites where, especially nowadays, like if you go on a site like Metacritic or whatever, a 5 out of 10 means like generally unfavorable, or like 70% is mixed. But no, 70% should be, 70% should be like, not mixed. It should be, and that's what I think the issue is the way a lot of the reviews are kind of bloated. A lot of, like, review scores back then were bloated, blah, blah, but yeah. Overall, I think the biggest issue with, like, general YouTube stuff is just that, well, Pilotwing 64 feels like it's missing half the game. I guess, like, it's just kind of frustrating seeing the discussion, like, the Overton window of, like, retro gaming just kind of be moved even further towards, like, the, Nintendo side. Because the issue is, for every, like, video that I see people talking about how Pilotwing 64 actually revolutionized 3D gaming, you could make an actually interesting or insightful video about something like, and this is something which genuinely did happen, like how, what's the game's name? How Soul Reaver influenced, modern environmental storytelling in a lot of Western PS1 and future games. Soul Reaver itself was one of the most interesting games I've ever seen in terms of, like, what was done on the PS1. Other games like Quake 2 on the PS1 also tried to do the same thing, but ran out of time, and that was by streaming the entire level from disk, for the simple reason that, you can do that on PlayStation. On N64, well, you can stream stuff much faster, but it's kinda hard to stream stuff from a cartridge, which doesn't hold much stuff, if any at all. Oh yeah, I forgot to have that structure. Oh yeah, it was because I was curious about what a nightmare was. Because in my brain, I thought it was some, like, creepypasta shit, and then I tried to do it, and then, oh yeah, no, it's just when a mob attacks you. It just has such an interesting name. Just, oh yeah, having a nightmare. Well, what could that be? Could it be transported into another dimension? Secret game content? DLC? No, it's just that. Yeah. But genuinely, like, as much as I enjoyed, like, my time with, the 5th gen stuff, my way of finding video topics is very basic. It's what do I want to talk about? I don't check the algorithm, I don't think about it much. I remember reading suggestions, which is like, oh, can you do what the Saturn can do? Well, yeah, but the Saturn's different, right? I remember seeing somebody mention that they wanted to see a comparison between what, like, 6th-gen systems could do. But they're all so similar that it doesn't matter. Like, the PS2. What could the PS2 do? Well, it could do the same things the Xbox could, except it could do a total of, like, less polygons per second. It had more memory bandwidth. And it could have, like, it didn't have, like, a fixed function pipeline. It actually just had vector units, so you could potentially have more really cool effects. Because you don't have to deal with, you know, whatever fixed function things the NVIDIA 3 or NVIDIA 4 or whatever GeForce GPU can do. You know, and then the GameCube, the game actually had a half-finished script on what the Dreamcast was capable of, just for that, and then I realized it's kind of boring. You know, and then the GameCube had some programmable functions on its flipper GPU, and a unified memory architecture. And then, the Dreamcast had, you know, ordered rendering, tile-based, you know, deferred rendering, which was really advanced for the time, because a lot of stuff today uses deferred rendering, because deferred rendering, deferred rendering basically means that you don't color your pixels until, like, the final pass, and it saves on a lot of bandwidth, but also, it makes it so you can't do stuff that isn't TAA, basically, or DLAA. So, if you want to blame somebody for TAA, it's not the Dreamcast. But generally speaking, there's just not a lot to be said, you know? As nice as the 6th gen stuff is, and I'll be honest, it is a lot more playable than a lot of 5th gen stuff, it is also a lot more uniform in a way that is kind of less interesting to talk about, especially with the consoles. Because, realistically, there wasn't that much difference between a PS2 and a GameCube. I mean, there was a lot when you were making the game, right? But that's, like, with any system. But there was no big difference, like, on the PS1 and N64, or PS1 and, you know, or Saturn or N64. Even then, comparing the Saturn against the N64 and PS1 is kind of... That's cool. It is kind of a little bit, you know, moot. When the Saturn was more of a, like, quadrilateral PS4 with more processors and, like, a genuinely somewhat worse architecture, but, like, it was, you know, the Saturn was kind of in the PS1 boat, where it was plus or minus kind of similar, right? It was actually, honestly, a little bit better for expandability because of the cartridge port and some insane shit, but what you need to know, and what I need to tell you, is that generally speaking, like, the N64 and PS1, or like the N64 and Saturn, CD sharpness versus cartridge blurriness, like, that is the big fight, basically. More than it was what the... Because the Saturn could have been capable of some few things the PS1 maybe couldn't have, but oh, wait a minute, then the PS1 can do this and that, and the Saturn can do it harder, you know, it's... There's no point. And of course, the issue comes also when I'm dealing with the fact that... I don't... You know... It's hard to think of a topic for 5th gen stuff that I actually want to do, because what do I have left, right? Like, I guess I could make a video going over some cross-gen titles. I could, try to compare similar-ish games on other genres, or like game versus game. I did initial run for a little bit, but oh, it's sprung already, huh? May have AFK'd for too long, or, like, left the server running for too long, whatever. Like, the issue then comes, I don't know... Trouble? Wait! Since when are the sponges here? What sponge? Whatever. Okay. Yeah, whatever. So, the issue is, a lot of the time it's hard to compare game to game. Like, for instance, take The Legend of Zelda. What do I compare it to on the PlayStation? What PlayStation game is comparable to Zelda? On a surface level, you may be able to think of a few games, but like, you know, what game on the N64 is comparable to Crash Bandicoot? I guess you could compare like Spyro and Banjo, but one of them clearly sold a lot more, so you run into the issue where as you get deeper into it, I saw this issue with when I was doing the racing game stuff, and the racing game stuff's easier because, you know, there's a lot more stuff. It's kind of, you know, the N64 just doesn't have enough stuff to where, and there's some of that, like, it does have some unique stuff which you can't find in other systems. But overall, like, I don't know. Maybe there is an action RPG. Maybe I can compare, like, Ocarina of Time, or, like, maybe it's better to compare, like, Majora's Mask against something like Vandal Hearts. But, like, do you really want to see a video comparing no, sorry, not Vandal Hearts. Sorry, Vagrant Story. You know what I mean? It's like, I would like to sort of compare that sort of stuff. But why would I? I remember comparing, like, Zelda, like, in its huge open areas to, what's its name? To Terracon? I should have finished the review I was working on ages ago, but whatever. Like, there's a lot I could do. I guess one example which I was tipped off by when I was trying to look if anyone actually, like, of the time gave a real review for Terracon was, basically, I could theoretically do, like, Terracon versus, what's the game's name again? Jet Force Gemini. But I don't know anything about Jet Force Gemini. Do I really want to play Jet Force Gemini? No, I don't. So, like, I don't know. It's like, or like, you know, I guess I could compare some of the sports stuff, but I don't like any sports games, so that'd be a video just me calling everything bad. I could make a video where I compare the, like, you know, you kind of run into those issues where, I don't know, you just can't. For a lot of the stuff, you just don't have any real comparison points. Like, as much as I would like to just say, hey, this is the better thing, how do you even do that? Like, one of these, like, these systems are really not that much alike once you get past, like, the, simpler stuff. And I also don't want to just leave it off with there being nothing that I can say or nothing I can really do. Because it is fun making that sort of stuff. But, like, I feel like comparing game to game, or genre to genre, would just kind of make it look stupid. Because it kind of really would be at that point. But yeah. I guess that is something, for me to, like, you know, ponder later. Because realistically, like, what else is there really to say, right? I guess I could make a video where I talk about, like, you know, fucking Jet Force Gemini and whatever else. But there's really no point. Because if I did that, I would just kind of be depriving people of, like, more interesting stuff. But what other interesting stuff could I even talk about? Because, like, I don't know, you know, it's stupid. There's not that much to do. Maybe I can get another shot like this. Maybe a lower tilt. Yeah. But yeah. That's gonna be about it. I guess I'll see you next time when we, like, deal with... I don't know, I'll have to continue doing the interior now. But hey, now we actually have, like, a front lawn of some kind. Granted, there's still the continent, this little island, and this stuff which I probably won't do that much with, because why would I bother doing all that when I have to finish up the house? Definitely need to add some stuff back here, because it's kind of empty, and that's going to be about it. I guess I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.